Welcome to Kingsman Software's Beyond the Build podcast. At Kingsman, we pride ourselves on building enterprise-quality software, and we have the privilege of meeting some pretty interesting people along the way. Come join us to meet the visionaries, the disruptors, the entrepreneurs, and the innovators that envision new technology solutions and then bring them to life. Come join and hear us what happens beyond the build. Welcome to Kingsman Software's Beyond the Build podcast. I'm Kevin Carney, one of the managing directors. Today I have with me Landon Glenn, CEO of ASA Financial. ASA Financial is, and their product, ASA Vault, is an embedded app store that allows banks and credit unions to embed a custom app store of fintech solutions inside their mobile banking platform. We met Landon a couple of years ago at a RevTech Labs event where they were presenting during Demo Day. We thought their product was really interesting and neat, and so we wanted to get them on our podcast. He's been running around the country at different incubators and different presentations and conferences, and we finally were able to get him to talk to us. So, Landon, welcome.
Kevin, excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's just catch people up on some of the stats. Give us some details as to when you guys were founded and how big you are, and I don't know, employees, revenues, clients, funding, awards. Give us all the details of ASA Financial.
Yeah, we founded in 2019 in October, and then of course COVID hit, so that kind of put a little bump in the road, and that was interesting to go through. It was a bit of a roller coaster ride, seeing how things moved along through that period. But we had the privilege of interviewing over 150 bank and credit CEOs before starting to build any code. So we started raising money in 2021 and started building out the software. So we're just past the two and a half year mark that we've actually been creating the infrastructure and building things out. And along the way, we've had a significant number of pivots, including some that we'll talk about today through our experience with the FIS Fintech Accelerator. But we've raised almost $5 million so far in funding. We've brought on investment from a wide range of strategic partners and industry executives and leaders that have helped propel ASA forward. And we are just at the position now where we're going to start scaling our sales and our growth. And a lot of that's going to come through partnerships that are being established. And our recent pivot, as you mentioned, this is the first time publicly that we've announced and advertised ASA as an embedded app store that allows the bank and credit union to have their own custom app store in their bank app.
Yeah, when we spoke last, right, we were talking about middleware and infrastructure between banks and fintechs, and now this is a little bit different. Is it a fundamental product, or is it just changing how it's messaged?
So it's the exact same product. It's changing slightly the delivery mechanism. And through the FIS program, we've just been meeting with banks and industry leaders on a regular basis, getting direct feedback. I like this, or I don't like this. Fix that, or this would be better. And the consensus overwhelmingly was, we love the idea of having access to all these great fintechs in this app store. We love the access, the scalability, the privacy component, the security component, your infrastructure, all these products you've built is exactly what we want. The difference is when we advertise an app that can engage children, similar to being able to parents pay their kids money or incentivize chores, we want them to go to our bank app to get that and to find it and control the data. And so that'll drive engagement to the bank or credit union's actual app, drive additional signups for it, so we can increase the percentages, because a lot of institutions are sitting between maybe 60 or 70% mobile app adoption. So we could be a use case that could actually push that percentage up and increase growth and revenue for the institution, the mobile banking provider, many times the core processor. So it's an additional way where everybody wins.
Gotcha. It does make more sense, right? I mean, I can relate to an app store, and if I go to my local credit union or local bank, I'd want to not just use their app, but all these other apps as well, and not have to go create new bank accounts and things along those lines. I just want to stay in my own banking ecosystem, and so that app store of apps that I know are going to directly connect to my banking without having to give any more information, open new accounts, I can see that is a lot easier to understand than to talk about middleware and infrastructure and technology and stuff like that.
Yeah, it just aligns incentives a bit more, and it allows the banks and credit unions to have a simpler, crisper marketing message because as soon as you start saying, okay, yeah, you've got to do X, Y, Z, then the customer or the member says, well, how? How do I get to that? And it sounds more difficult than it is. So I think the two key takeaways with this pivot are number one, embedded app store inside of your bank app, and then number two, revenue center. It's a profit generator for banks and credit unions to increase new revenue streams from these partnerships that are being established. And so we're really excited about these changes, and the feedback we've had from the initial partners has been just overwhelmingly positive. And you think about all of the exciting innovations out there in the industry, a lot of them have to do with embedding certain features and functions into the bank app. And so what we're building, no one has ever allowed banks and credit unions to easily embed an entire app store infrastructure where they can customize and manage and control the privacy component into their bank app. And what more exciting thing to drive affinity groups and custom segments of their customer base and membership base back to their digital solution. And so I think we're going to be able to really drive increased engagement, retention, increased wallet share, as well as those additional revenue streams. So I'm really excited to talk with you about it today and how we came to that decision and what that means for the industry, along with, we've got a lot of great topics to cover today.
All right, well, toot your own horn a little bit for a second here. So talk about some of the incubator programs that you've been involved in and some of the awards you guys have won.
Yeah. I mean, last week I was in New York at Finovate, and then I went from there to FIS headquarters in Jacksonville, and then flew out on a 4 a.m. flight to make it back to the MX conference up at Snowbird, Utah. And so to say that I'm, traveling is an understatement. It's the startup life, and we're out there being evangelists of our message. And, a lot of what we've accomplished, a lot of our achievements, it comes down to the vision and why we're doing this. And, it might be good that the name ASA is from Asa Whitney, the visionary proponent of the Transcontinental Railroad that kicked off the Industrial Revolution. And we all know what that did for the quality of life and the opportunity for everyone. The cities that were built, the industries that were shaped, the efficiencies that were created. And we're building a new set of rails. It's an infrastructure platform to transform technology and banking and how it works together and create opportunity for innovation at a scale that's never been possible because of the privacy components, because of the security components, and the things that we've done where for the first time ever, you can connect your financial data to a fintech without sharing your name, login credentials, account number, or any other personally identifiable information. And so this framework, the vision has caught the attention of some exciting partners and leaders in the industry. And we also were issued our patent in November of last year, and we beat Apple by 3 months on filing that patent. So it's a pretty exciting accomplishment there. We're working on some additional IP as well. We are SOC 2 Type 1, Type 2 compliant with the pen testing out of 154,000 penetration attacks. We've had 0 exceptions of any kind. And that's the most secure platform our CTO has ever built. And so let's start with our CTO. So Troy Moss built First Data's payment gateway, Jack Henry's credit card platform. If for those of you that have used the Xbox, he's the reason your money keeps disappearing from your kids. He integrated payments into the Xbox, global payments for Walmart, McDonald's. He even integrated 2,000 vendors for the B-2 bomber for Northrop Grumman.
Wow.
So he's done some major platforms in his time and in his career, and he's brought that brain trust and that experience in architecting and creating platforms and highly scalable, efficient systems. And he's brought that to the ASA team to help us create that future framework, that new set of rails for banking. And so additionally, the CIO for 4 of the largest banks, Austin Adams, he oversaw the Bank One JP Morgan Chase consolidation or merger. and was voted one of the 16 most influential technologists in the world. He's our chairman of the board and also a personal investor. Benson Porter, who was the CEO of Boeing, the third largest credit union, the actual largest community-based credit union in the world. He's invested as well, and he's on our board. Some other great investors, head architect of Zelle, CTO of SunGard, FIS through the fintech accelerator that we're in. RevTech Labs is an investor. We've got many others that have really helped us drive our vision forward, and they've caught what we're doing and helped propel us forward. But for accelerators, we brought in the first one we participated in was Plug and Play FinTech Batch 14 out of San Francisco. And then, of course, with the RevTech Labs program, some deep partnerships and involvement there. And then also we won the Boeing Employees Credit Union Accelerator. And we're able to go through that program for a year and get assistance and resources from their credit union. And that also led to the investment from their CEO, Benson Porter, who is now retired and in the Credit Union Hall of Fame, which is
Really?
kind of nice to have. And we are currently in the FIS FinTech Accelerator, which that program, I can't say enough for how much impact that's having. I feel like we've made 18, 24 months of business development in the last 6 weeks. It's been an absolute, pleasure to be going through that program.
So right now you're connected to Jack Henry, and it sounds like being as part of the FIS accelerator, you'll be connected to FIS at some point in the future, right? These core banking.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Okay. So you must get so much exposure to banks and credit unions through the core platforms and these accelerators as well. That must help your growth immensely, because when you go to these accelerators, you're looking for, you're an entrepreneur, you're looking for help in making your message crisper, looking for investors, but being able to find the end users and have them give feedback to your pitch and your offering, and also be creating customers along the way, or at least leads and prospects. That must be the real value of these accelerators for you.
Yeah, the real value is exactly like you said. These institutions that are participating, they care about their industry, and they care about the fact that our mission, that what we live for, is to really serve their industry. That's why we're doing this. And we want to build a model with ASA where the financial institution wins, where the fintech can win alongside together with the financial institution, and where the end user has a better experience. In platforms, if you can create a way to remove friction, look at Uber. They made it easier, more convenient to get a ride, and they 11x'd the $5 billion taxi industry they set out to disrupt. Within just a few years, they were doing $55 billion in revenue. And so you look at those platform plays, that's what we're doing between banking and fintech. We're trying to make it so that you don't have to deal with re-authenting accounts constantly and connections breaking, and then sharing usernames and passwords with all these players, sharing routing and account numbers out in the open, having to give up privacy to other parties that you may not trust. Switching around and a lot of the friction that comes with these experiences, because you might want to try out a really innovative solution, but you don't want to pull your credit and open a bank account with them to be able to test it. And
Right.
so ASA's that world where now the bank and credit union that you trust powers all of the fintechs in your life. And the fintech on the front end provides the UX, the experience in the app that delivers that through the rails of the bank and credit union. So we found a way to align incentives and create an opportunity to, what we expect is 10x the industry, to be able to bring more fintech engagement, more fintech adoption, because they can go to market 100 times faster and at a fraction of the cost. And so we can talk a little bit more about how that's possible throughout the program, but what that ultimately means is there's going to be solutions out there that people aren't doing today because of the barriers to entry. We're breaking down those barriers.
Okay. All right. So before we get into all those details, I do want, and I have an icebreaker we've kind of broken the ice a little bit, but before we get into the icebreaker, tell me about Travis, because
Oh,
That's
wow.
really interesting,
Yeah. So Travis Oliphant, the guy's a rock star. And,
right?
he wrote NumPy,
Yeah.
which, the Python-based matrix that is the foundation for machine learning and AI. I mean,
Yeah.
anyone who's doing AI or machine learning, the very first import they're going to do is the Python library or the NumPy libraries.
Yeah.
And he wrote it and founded Anaconda. And so, I think there's really two things that attracted Asa and Travis together. And for those that don't know, I forgot to mention him and his fund, but they are investors in Asa. And what drew the groups together is the fact that we're creating an open innovation path in banking that's going to allow um, what we talked about earlier, the 10x of the fintech space. And then the other component to that is they have some of the brightest machine learning and AI architecture minds in the country with the things they've built. And they're looking at the data that ACE is going to be bringing in and storing in your vault, in your private, personal wallet within your bank to be able to use that data for your benefit and help you figure out insights and look at behaviors and say, you know what, based on what's happening, we think this app, and this app could be interesting to you because when you go into the Apple App Store, there's a lot of apps in there. And how do you find the ones that are relevant to you? Well, that's where the data and the insights and the behaviors start to help influence that. And so we think there's going to be an opportunity for some high level architecture partnerships to help us bring some really exciting features to the industry.
Right, right. Yeah. More than just investing their money, they're investing their experience and their technology background into you as well. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, they look for, aligned companies. It's more than just a check.
Right, right. Okay, so some interesting banking facts. Let's see how much you know about the banking world, specifically currency, right? Because you're digitizing currency, right? You're not actually using cash and whatnot. But all right, first question. Which bill, according to the US currency education program, which bill has the shortest lifespan? So, like, it gets printed and then it gets into the money system, and then the bill has to be retired because it's all ratty and crinkly. Which bill?
$20
Shortest
bill.
lifespan. The what?
$20 bill.
I thought of that too. The one or the 20? It's the 10.
The 10.
Who
Oh,
uses a 10? I never use a 10.
wow. Maybe
Right?
that's why.
What is
They all
what
get
is
lost,
what
don't
is
they?
the longest? The longest
The
lifespan.
longest lifespan? The 100.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. So that has like a
Yeah.
lifespan of 15 years. The $10
Okay.
bill has less than 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the $1 bill is like 5.8. I would have thought those have been like a year or two. But
Yeah, they're always just stored safely and securely in the vending machines, right? So they're protected from the elements.
um, so if any of these are wrong, and someone's fact checking us, I went to SoFi.com, so they can go yell at SoFi. I just pulled these from them. All right. So what is the highest denomination bill ever used in the US?
Ooh, highest ever used.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's at least 1,000, but could there be a greater? Could there be a 10,000?
There was 100,000.
Oh, there was a hundred
Yeah,
thousand.
in the
Wow.
in the 30s, 1934 to 1945, but it was used for official transactions between the Federal Reserve banks.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
For computers, right? They had to find a
Hmm.
way. And once computers came in the 50s, they didn't need to do it anymore.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
transactions. So it's kind of like they wanted to do, people were talking about that $1 trillion coin they wanted to make up or whatever.
But I guess as I think about it, like in the 20s and the 30s, as inflation occurred and money gets bigger, the money's like the M1 money supply gets bigger and bigger. You can't just ship gold or so much cash in between Federal Reserves. You use a different way. But
Super interesting. Yeah.
all right, how much does it cost to make one penny?
Oh, wow.
Give you a hint, it's worth
Um,
more than 1 cent.
11 cents.
2 cents, two and a half,
2 cents. Okay. Well, 11 was way too high.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you wonder whether they even make pennies anymore. Although I heard that people in Illinois, the land of Lincoln, like the penny because it has Lincoln. Um, this is interesting to me. What percent of the world's currency is physical money? This is not just US, world currency.
World currency.
versus digital, right? So, you take $100, you put it in the bank account. It's not, well, I guess there's still cash there somewhere, but
I don't know, 20%?
yeah, 8%.
Oh, 8%. Wow.
Yeah. Interesting. I thought that was really,
Hmm.
really well. I was
Yeah.
more along your lines. And then very fun. How many folds forward and back? That's it. It's called a double fold. How many folds does it take for a dollar bill to tear? So these are designed, right? This is
Um,
this is the design specs from the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. How many folds?
1,342.
So close. 4,000.
Oh, okay.
4,000. 4,000. Who knew? Who knew? Anyway, okay. Now you know. Those are the facts. Okay, so
Interesting.
let me bring it back a little bit. Um, let me we've talked a lot about banks and credit unions and fintechs and core banking platforms and the end user or the account holder. Let's make this real for someone. So
Yeah.
we talked about how you can I can hire and fire my kids. I can pay them for chores. And so if I am a member at the local credit union or the Boeing credit union, um, and I want to use that app, how am I going to use that app and connect to my Boeing account? So walk me through how it works in the old world, how it works in the ASA world, and why that's so much better.
Yeah. So in the old world, you would go to the fintech and give them your name and your email and register your account.
I have to
And
find
then
that
the next,
somehow, right? I mean, I have to stumble across
yeah,
it, direct marketing.
yeah, you have to find the solution. So you may hear about it online. I mean, for every app that's a household name, like an Acorns or a Robinhood, there's a dozen others that are have just as good tech, if not sometimes better features that you don't know about because they haven't had the timing or the luck or the success or whatever it is that's giving these fintechs the ability to become, unicorns, really big companies. So they find the app somehow and then they get into it and then they register, giving them their personal information, email, everything else. And then from there, they have to connect their accounts. And to do that, it's typically using open banking. And that's going to be either screen scraping or an OAuth connection. So either way, they have to put in the username and password to their bank account and then connect it out. And then from there, it syncs up a connection if the financial institution has a connection. Sometimes it'll connect, sometimes it won't. We've all used programs like I was an early adopter of mint.com, but every time I got in there, half my connections were broken. So I'd spend
The same experience.
20, 30, yeah, 20 or 30 minutes fixing them.
Yep,
And I was
yep.
like, oh, so I
So
threw in the towel on that. Yeah.
keep going as an account member.
Yep.
If I were to find this application, this fintech, this utility through the App Store, the Apple App Store, and I don't really know this company, and I want to try it out and see if it'll work with my kids. All of a sudden, I'm taking an app I don't know, and I'm putting my bank account information into that app, and I'm just trying it out. So I might not even want this. The app might not work for my purposes or whatnot, but all of a sudden, I'm giving a random application my username and password.
Yeah, yeah. And the ones with the big names, people hear about them from a friend, so they're getting that trusted intro. So they're more willing to give up all their private information and access to that information. And then many of them also require you to open up a new bank account or a new card. And so that's often pulling your credit, giving up your social, things like that, or whatever they need to set that up. And so now you're, pulling funds from your old account into the new one. And that's the challenge that the industry has is these credit unions and banks want these features. They want the function that these amazing apps have. Acorns has 9 million users. Greenlight is a $2 billion company that gamifies parents sending money to the kids. And you think about those experiences. Well, the problem is they happen outside of the financial institution. So you send your account holders there. Well, they're going to be opening accounts and products and services outside. And that's what the banking as a service, method, which is the most well-known and popular method for connecting through open banking to fintech. It's created a world where now I, as a customer, have to leave the institution I've been with for a decade or for however long that has all my money, all my accounts, all my loans are already there. I have to establish a new relationship to try out that fintech.
Right. And I have money in different places, not consolidated. I might forget about that account. I might, if I tried out that fintech application and I end up not liking it, I now have to remember to go back and close my account. Otherwise, they have access to my bank account information.
Right,
So put this under the new world of now I go to my credit union and I've already have my account and they have an app store for me. They have a store of
right.
different fintechs that they've looked at, that they've assessed, that they've kind of certified or connected to their bank accounts. So what's my experience there?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I was talking to a younger person recently that is a heavy user of fintechs, and in addition to everything we talked about, their situation was such that they had to download a dozen different tax documents from a dozen different random apps and consolidate them for tax season. So not only do you have to remember for other purposes, but you've got some liability on the tax end that you've got to fish all these together and it becomes a bit more work. So, to your question of how do we consolidate that through the bank or credit union, we're allowing the user to power the fintech experience using the existing rails at their bank or credit union partner and using the infrastructure already there. So that just simplifies everything. Those 12 tax documents go down to one that you
Mhm.
have with your bank or credit union. All those experiences that you would have to deal with separately from connections and managing and relationships, it all goes down to one central location that allows you to connect all of your data from all of your banks and credit unions into all of your experiences that you're using. So that's it's removing a lot of friction and it's removing a lot of time. There's no more registering these individual apps. There's no more sharing emails. We've built the infrastructure to use OpenID Connect with Okta on the back end, but simplified, think of it like login with Facebook to be able to log into all of your fintech. So now you have the same username and password to log into every app from any device that you have in your world of apps that you're using.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, that login with Facebook makes a lot of sense, right? So I'm gonna get the ASA Vault app, which I did,
Hmm.
and I can see there's lots of different banks that are connected there. So if I have some of my accounts at a credit union, some of mine at a bank, I can connect both of those, and then all the fintechs that have connected to ASA Vault, I can now just leverage. I can just use them without having to give them all my bank account information, without having to open new bank accounts. So that's kind
Right.
of my new hub.
Hmm. Yeah, and we use tokens and identifiers to be able to verify identity and to manage the relationships. So we're able to connect everything to that fintech without sharing your name. We use a virtual email. So we have a de-identified email that forwards to the primary email address. So now each individual fintech has a separate email connection linking you together. And we don't have to share account numbers, routing numbers, usernames, and passwords. When we were rolling this out, when people tried to connect to their primary credit union or bank, many of them didn't know the username and password to the account and they had to go searching for it to find it. And so we built an algorithm that actually uses the core integration that ACE has established through the partner and actually builds out the connection for them and establishes it without a password, without a username. So we're able to use that algorithm to verify the KYC data and authenticate into the user without login credentials. And so that's a huge step forward in the speed of connecting those things. So the only thing I'll modify is with the pivot, we're actually embedding that ASA App Store into the mobile banking app. So the standalone app will be part of the bank app that you'll be able to launch from within. And now you go to your primary bank app or credit union app, and that's where you control all your connections, fintechs, permissioning, data sharing, things like that.
Okay. So let's talk about that permissioning, because I thought that was pretty unique when I downloaded the app a couple weeks ago, and I can turn things on or off, right? I mean, literally, as a slider that says I no longer want to use this fintech, and I don't want that to have access to my bank account information anymore. That's pretty
Yep.
powerful, right?
Oh yeah,
I
very
mean,
powerful.
normally I have to go to the fintech and try to close my account. Of course, it's never easy to close your account because they want to make it hard on purpose. Or you have to call someone to close your account. You're never quite sure if it's closed or whether it's just dormant and might come back. So, like, I really like that idea of being able to just flip that switch and say, I no longer want that fintech to have access to my bank account information.
Yeah, and even beyond that, when you think of core processors and screen scraping, both of them typically, for the most part, have an all or nothing integration. So you give up your username and password to your bank account, the screen scraper gets in. Well, that company now is going to know all of your account information for everything that's in that login. I mean, essentially, they can see all of the data, account numbers, everything. And then when you permission that to the fintech, they're getting everything. So if you only wanted to share your credit card information with that app, doesn't matter. They're going to get your retirement account, your savings, your checking, your child's co-signed account, or whatever it is. All of that data is going to go into that app, despite you not wanting to share just that solution. And a lot of the cores are built the same way. When they integrate, you get all the information for those accounts, for those users. So what ASA's infrastructure does is we sit in the middle as that access controller. We fully integrate the banking core system. And then we have that front end open API that connects to the fintechs that we can, our last fintech integration, we were able to fully complete in 36 hours, which is pretty incredible. And we control down to the individual account that goes to each individual fintech. So in addition to being able to turn it on or off simply and easily, we're getting a higher level of privacy to that, where the individual accounts are what's being permissioned. And then in addition to that, we don't share account numbers, names, or emails. So from the start, we've already reduced the vast amount of liability that comes from the banking regulations because you're not sharing anything through the API that could put the consumer at risk. And that's how we work to solve that data provider risk for the banks and credit unions.
Yeah. Yeah, as an individual, as an account member, that makes a ton of sense. I also love the idea that, I'm going to my bank website anyway. And yes, my bank has a mobile app. I guess I would think that a lot of the smaller banks and credit unions, they use the mobile app from their core banking provider. But being able to have additional features and functionality that I can use in these fintechs that I know are connected to my bank, and I know that they've been vetted. They're not just kind of some fly by night person that is, working in their dorm room, creating a fintech and grabbing all my bank account information. They've gone through some sort of a process. So from an account member, that makes a lot of sense. Talk about the credit union and the bank. Like what's the value in it for that? You mentioned that you've got some stickiness for our customers, right? Both in that we're adding more value to our customers, and we're also decreasing their propensity to shift away to some other bank account.
Right.
So there's definitely a lot of engagement, right? As that they can offer very quickly. But I think there's a revenue share model there as well, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
Great. Yeah. So when you think of, as you mentioned, the end user, removing the friction, a lot of times removing the middleman, right? Because your bank can do all of the things that a fintech wants to do. Every fintech is powered by a bank, just not your bank. And so what ASA allows is for your bank to directly power the fintechs you're using. So that means that it's going to be faster, safer. We're removing the middleman, removing the need for a lot of pieces to, leave the bank. And that same benefit applies to the bank. So now instead of, going to an app like an Acorns or a Greenlight and having the money leave your accounts and go into a separate account and have the experience go to a separate branded experience and then having the fee income go to another group, all of those things are happening. We're now for the bank or credit union, many times they don't want to promote these other providers like Mint.com. Do you really want to send all your customers to Mint when Mint is advertising credit cards, loans, checking accounts from your competitors? And there's not a single advertisement in there for your bank.
Right.
There's no reason for you to send anyone there ever. And so the challenge becomes, how do I give these experiences that 88% of Americans are using fintech? 81% of consumers have connected their primary account to a fintech, but only 14% of Americans trust the process. So there is this tremendous opportunity for the bank with their KYC, their compliance, their infrastructure to come in as the trusted source of connecting data out. And so they don't have to export that experience to a third party. They don't have to give all the revenue to a third party. They don't have to give the relationships to third parties. I mean, you've seen it with personal loans. Banks and credit unions used to do the lion's share of personal loans. Now, fintechs are doing 38% of all personal loans,
Mm.
which is more than all banks combined individually and more than the group of all credit unions combined individually as well. I think credit unions are 21% and banks are at 28%. So it shows that they're coming after these industries, whether it's interchange, whether it's relationships, other apps now like Divvy that has a card for businesses. They want that interchange. They want those relationships where traditionally the commercial bank would hold it. So first and foremost, we're providing a way for the bank and credit union to increase wallet share, increase the number of accounts and lines that they have with each customer, and to increase the retention because they're able to get the solutions and the features they want by going into the bank app and using the bank's cards, loans, and accounts. And so that's one core benefit. But then you had also asked about the fee income. But before we jump over to that, any elaborations or questions on the first half of the benefit?
No, I forget about the interchange for because you mentioned green light, right? Where
Right.
you can send money to your child on a card and they can spend that card. Of course, um, if the bank did not have that product, then all of a sudden someone else is starting to get interchange fees. And to a certain extent, that might be net new interchange fees. Whereas if you had that product, not only are you having better engagement with your customer and the parent typically, right? You're keeping them sticky, but all of a sudden, if they do load up a debit card for their child, all of a sudden the child will have a debit card now at your bank, and now you've got another customer and you've got more interchange fees. So you are not just
Yes,
retaining, but you are growing the accounts and the share of wallet. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting piece because it's really, I mean, kids aren't spending that much money typically, right? At the interchange is very small, but really what you're looking at is the relationship. What are they seeing? What is the brand? And where are they going to go when they turn 18? If they're going to Current or Greenlight or some other solution that enables kids to have those experiences, then you can guarantee they're not going to be a customer at your bank. And now everybody's wondering, well, why is our demographic aging? What, why? Oh, I have no idea. Well, maybe you're not offering any of the stuff that they want. And so
We
other people are taking that relationship.
Landon, we have great branches and we've got balloons and lollipops. People come in. That's what the customer wants, right? No, they want to use their phone. They want to
I'll
use.
tell you point blank, I've got a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and I would be a huge customer of a primary bank powered experience where I could set the chores for my children and set the dollar amounts and have the app remind them and give them a way where they're on the weekend and they're motivated to buy something that they want. They actually have a means to go out and earn it and get things done, and everybody wins. And the money goes instantly, instead of the money leaving to another entity, another bank or another BAS account, the funds are going to stay, they're going to go from the parent's account to the youth savings account or the youth checking account if they're 13 and up at the same institution. And so you complete the chore and instantly the funds will be in your account ready to go. And you'll see that happening on the app. And so it's faster. The money movement is instantaneous. It's all through the banking rails. It's with an institution. The card will be branded for the bank. The relationship grows, and now they can have an app when the child turns 18, where now they can start building credit and get their first credit card in a safe, compliant way with guardrails. And so the whole thing loops back around to how do we not only interact and engage our user base, our customer, our account holders, but then how do we use ways to bring more in? And for most banks and credit unions, if you asked them how many kids do your account holders have, what do you think their answer would be?
Most of their clients probably have kids, right?
Yeah, but they have no idea how many kids there are because
Oh,
they've
well,
never asked. I've never been asked, and I have multiple relationships, and not a single one has said, "Oh, hey, how many kids do you have?" They're not even providing those services. And so you've got these affinity-based fintechs that are creating multi-billion dollar companies stealing these segments that the banks and credit unions are ignoring many times.
hmm, gotcha. So how, you mentioned in the beginning that Asa Vault as a embedded app store could be a revenue center, a profit center.
Yes.
Yeah, elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's a really, really exciting conversation because not only do you have the ability to put proven solutions with features and functions that your customers want and your account holders want, but now you can generate revenue from sources that you've never been able to generate revenue before. And so in addition to the increased retention and all the other benefits of increased wallet share, interchange, et cetera, we're looking at ways to create fee income, referral income, subscription income, marketplace platform income. And the way we do that is ASA, with the bank and credit union partners, gives 50% of all fintech generated income back to the partner institution. So, what better incentive to advertise this application now for children to be able to, get paid for chores and gamify that experience, or for, sweep accounts and roundups and things like that for people to be able to save their spare change and save as they spend, than to have the ability to not only have the new accounts go to you, the interchange go to you, but additionally, whatever fee income is there, you're now getting 50% of all of that revenue share of that profit. And so it becomes a profit center where we can actually turn it into a net positive where you're making more money than it's costing you to implement these solutions. And that's a huge shift for banks and credit unions. They're used to every person calling them and saying, "Hey, I want all this money from you. You pay for this for your customers. Oh, you want this? Okay, it's going to be blah, 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 X amount." And they're getting hit from every angle. And that's why most of them have zero fintech features, or one or two. Most of them have no apps that they can offer. But with the ASA App Store embedded into your bank app, every single app that's adopted, we're looking for proven solutions that have valuable features that customers want and will pay for. From Cornerstone Advisors, I can't believe I can't remember the exact number, but I believe Ron Shevlin had said it was something around $16 billion is now being spent in subscription fees to fintechs. And guess how much of that is going to banks and credit unions?
Zero.
Zero. Sorry, that's a better zero. 0.0. And so, how do we get that revenue in the hands of the banks and credit unions? Well, they have what the fintechs need, which is the compliance component, the trust component, and then also the distribution channel. They have all the customers. And so partnering, it's going to accelerate the industry in a big way. And it's going to make it safer, easier, more convenient, and just all around better to use fintech. And that's what that's what we've been building for the vision for the last 4 years. And that's what we're rolling out to the industry.
So that makes a lot of sense for the user, right? We've talked about that. We've talked about the banks and credit unions. I'm a fintech now, so and I'm putting my fintech persona on, and I just built this hire fire your kids, and now I need to go to connect to banks. Why would I come to ASA? I mean, I clearly
Yeah,
we've
great
talked about
question.
that, right? But let's just nail these down, right? Because I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to go bank to bank to bank.
Yes, exactly. So, what the industry has been dead focused on is making it easier to connect. But connecting isn't the real problem. It's the privacy, the liability, the compliance side. Because even if I could connect you to my bank right now, how long would it take me to go through the liability of sharing account numbers, names, emails, and PII data, and then to vet and due diligence that solution? It's going to take me 18 months, up to 18 months. If I'm a smaller institution, I might be able to move quicker than the big ones. But the bottom line is that to even access the open banking APIs that are established, these amazing connections to Chase Bank and Wells Fargo and everything else that are 98% plus, uptime typically, for those connections to be established and to even have access, you have to sign a contract that you're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant.
Which is
And I
very,
don't,
I've seen them many times. Yeah.
how long does that take on average?
Like 24 months or something like that, right?
Yeah, you have the audit period alone. You have to go through 6 months of your systems being fully compliant to go back and start the audit. So not only do you have to pay a significant amount of money, but you have to have a level of architecture that the vast majority of fintechs do not even understand how to do. And to
Yeah.
have that level of security, that level of compliance, there's a reason why we're seeing so many fintechs that are breaking laws or making mistakes, and the CFPB is coming out, or the OCC sanctioning, banks and fintechs and things like that. It's because, I mean, when you talk to a bank, the average compliance person, they say that you have to be a lifer to even understand how all of the intricacies of banking compliance. I mean, it's a 20-year role for many of these leaders, and then they have a mentor sitting under that 20-year veteran for 5 years before the veteran retires. And that's how complicated the banking regulation and compliance is. And these fintechs, I mean, they just started their company 6 months ago and they don't even know what, KYC means. They don't know what the Patriot Act or loan to deposit ratios or, AM, like all these things, AML or whatever. And Reg Z, they're like, what's Reg what? Is this
They
like
can't
World
even
War
spell
Z here?
KYC.
What's that?
They can't even spell KYC.
Yeah, they don't they don't even know what it stands for. And the bottom line is that that fintech trying to go to market, they don't care about being a bank. And they keep getting this allure of like, well, you want the interchange, you want it. I'm like, well, is Greenlight even profitable? Is, you know, Chime or Moneyline or how many of these neobanks are actually profitable? How many of these fintech programs are actually profitable? Very small percentage. And so that's where you start to realize, okay, there's not as much money when you deal with the fraud because as soon as you become a fintech and open your doors for people to open accounts and cards and loans through a Bass Bank, that means that anybody that has someone's information off the dark web can go fraudulently spoof, Kevin or Landon and try and create an account. And that means that you're going to have to figure out, is this real or not? And then, I've talked to some, startup digital bank type solutions, and they're saying 9 out of 10 signups are fraudulent, and they're having to figure out which one is the 1 out of 10. And so it varies. I mean, that's not always the case, but you can see how much work the fraudsters are willing to go through to try and steal $10 from a fintech somewhere in another country.
If you're a fintech startup, I mean, there's no competitive advantage really well, creating your own bank is just a royal pain. I would suspect most fintechs are not looking to do that unless they're very well funded and they've been in that industry a long time. But
Yeah,
you definitely need bank kind of information, right? The higher fire your kids, they uh, they're not looking to be a bank. They're looking to leverage bank accounts. But
right,
the actual moving of money is not their core competitive advantage, right? It's the features that they put on top of that.
right,
The interaction between the parent and the children, the listing of the chores, the agreeing upon what the amount is if you actually do the chore, the I accept it
yep,
that you complete the chore, moving the money. That moving the money is almost just the afterthought. And
right,
so, I mean, to an extent, you just want that to be up and running in the easiest
correct.
way possible, right?
Yeah, because it's expensive to move the money. It's expensive to issue cards. It's expensive to issue accounts. And so they're paying money to do all of that through Bass or through whatever they're doing. It costs money. And so if they can eliminate all of that cost and then just provide the front end user experience and then charge a monthly fee, they're $5 a month or $10 a month or whatever that is, then now they can have a pure profit center because we're using the bank's rails. The card is your primary bank card or credit union card. And the account is your primary bank or credit union account. And so now all of that fee income that they're charging through the solution for that user experience is going to go to them. And then we take a revenue share from each fintech. So we charge a percentage of revenue from each app for the platform access. And that helps them with getting the banking products and services, getting the off-bank data, getting access to the core data, getting the KYC, the authentication, because remember, we're bringing customers in that we verified through the core. We know they're authentic. We know that they're real customers. So we're eliminating the fraud component for these fintechs when the users are coming through us. And then additionally, the final piece is that we're providing the ability to do all the things at the core that they need to do, the sending of commands, so movement of money, paying for chores, issuing card, things like that. So if they don't have to pay anything for that, we're now the acquisition channel, we're the distribution model, we're the data model, we're the authentication model. It's a full infrastructure platform that you can integrate through our open API and turn it on literally in less than 7 days. So
Wow.
in less than 7 days, you can be fully connected, have the ability to move money without knowing the customer's name or their account number. That's never been possible before.
That,
And so
that, that's
yeah,
liberating, right? Is if I were a fintech and I didn't have to have the burden of storing someone's name and routing and bank account number and passwords, that's wonderful because
yeah,
I can focus on my core strengths, which is this other features that I'm adding. Um,
yeah,
I don't have to go down the SOC 2 route. And um, I don't have to connect to so many different banks, right? I can
right.
focus on one API set and get really good at that on the back end, and then just focus all my attention on building out my product.
Exactly. I mean, these fintechs, they want to build beautiful user experiences. They're passionate and they're looking at the industry and saying there's not very good tech out there. Well,
Yeah.
why is that? Well, it's because of the regulatory compliance barriers. The one-to-one partnerships with each bank and credit union are so hard. The issues with, BAS and having to talk to your BAS sponsor every single day. A lot of people don't know this, but I think it's Treasury Prime, one of the BAS companies. They don't have hundreds of providers. They've got, I don't know if I think it's less than a dozen. I don't even know how many they have, but it's not very many fintechs that are on that platform to build up their business model. It's not like we're 10xing the number of fintechs available. And so we're taking a very different approach. Instead of doing what the industry's done with where they're headed, where we say, okay, we've got these regulated banks and credit unions that can't innovate. They're too slow because of all the regulatory. And then we've got these fintechs that are highly innovative. Well, the way we're going to solve their problems, they need access to data and money and everything else. So the way we're going to give them the ability to move money and accounts and things like that is we're going to drop their charter on top of them. So now they become the same compliance and regulatory liability as a bank. They've got to deal with all the headaches, the rules, quoting rates, and all these things. And that's why you see some ultra successful fintechs that are worth billions of dollars because they got in at the right time, they have the right name. But for startups that want to enter the space and create an affinity group solution for, professionals or athletes or college kids or children or whatever it is, that piece that they have to try and deal with, the banking compliance and infrastructure, it's crippling the industry and keeping them from innovating because they're having to deal with becoming banks. So by separating that where they stay in their lane, the bank provides the compliance and the regulated products and services and data. The fintech provides beautiful UX and customer acquisition and interface. Both of them can go faster and together and share revenue, share opportunities. And we're going to make it so that you could launch a fintech, build the solution, and integrate and be live in production, moving money, facilitating experiences in less than 7 days of work. And that's the comparison is much, 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 much longer. And so we are going to 10x the industry, and we're also going to launch forward a new level of privacy where you're never sharing your username and password to your bank account ever. You're never sharing your routing and account numbers to make payments ever. And when that happens, imagine what that does for fraud. The customer's not even going to care what their routing and account number is
Right.
because they're never going to need it. And so that means that there's not going to be those places in the dark web where you can go buy that data and use it to compromise somebody. And so it's going to take us 3 to 4 years to hit critical mass on this, but you're going to see a huge drop off in fraud and a huge spike up in innovation and opportunity where these apps are coming out faster than ever before, and they're going to work seamlessly through the infrastructure of the United States, banking and credit union industries and infrastructure.
It's pretty amazing. I love the vision that you have, right? You're thinking really big. You're focusing on small fintechs and relatively small banks, but you're thinking big because there's a lot of them, and you're bringing them all together. You're kind of decoupling that fintech from the bank. You don't want a fintech to be a bank. You don't want a bank to be a fintech. So by decoupling, like you said, stay in your lane, specialize in what you do what you do it best, and you're really good
Yep.
at it. But connect them all together so they can help each other. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. That's cool. So
Yeah, thank you.
what's in it for a core banking platform?
Oh boy, that's a whole nother question that's very exciting because these core banking platforms, I think they've been conditioned over the last many years to see all these new cores coming out saying we're going to destroy the old antiquated cores, or they're kind of attacking the industry saying it needs to go, we need to replace it, whether it's DeFi or crypto or the word, what we've heard from just more innovation. We're seeing a lot of people that are coming after some of the antiquated components of these cores. And so in particular, looking at FIS, we were just out at their headquarters, and one of their banks said point blank to the venture center that runs the accelerator with FIS in conjunction, they said this cohort of companies is filling more gaps that are at the core level than any cohort we've ever seen. And this is very exciting. And so, in particular, it was expressed that ASA is filling this monstrous gap, which is bank tech innovation and the ability to launch new services. And so, for the cores, we've built a significant amount of infrastructure handling, login with ASA. So you can log into fintechs using your bank credentials and handling virtual emails and registering fintechs and setting everything up. So essentially, by integrating and embedding ASA, many of these cores offer their own app. So they've got a banking app. So now ASA could be embedded to become the app store. And we sit in the middle and we're the access controller. So on the one end, we fully integrate to the core and the mobile banking. In the middle is where the user connects all of their accounts and controls their permissions and their data and their privacy and their identity. And then on the front end, the open API is how the fintechs turn on. And so those fintechs never touch the core, nor do they receive any personal identifiable information. So we could have 1 million apps in the ASA platform. And those million apps, normally it would be 1 million integrations that the core would have to deal with. They have access to all their regulated data. They have access to all the compliant information. You're in software. Do you want 1 million people in your system?
No, and I couldn't do it in 7 days. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So what we've done is the infrastructure keeps them out, but it allows the front end user to use tokens and identifiers. And then in the middle, we're permissioning the commands. So for example, if we look at a sweep account, we have an app called Guac that's really exciting that allows you to tip yourself. And when you think of tipping yourself, you're tipping everyone else all day long. And you may tip yourself for a change to help yourself get ahead. So maybe it's 5% or 10% or whatever you want to tip. Well, when you swipe that bank issued debit card, that whatever rule set has been established in the access controller within the App Store, that command happens at the core level through the infrastructure. So it's controlled by the user. Guac doesn't know your account number they don't even know what bank or credit union you're with. They don't even have to know your name. And so using all these tokens and identifiers, we're able to verify with the customer, we have all that data, we have all that security. We're being audited by the bank. We're going through the regulated process of partnership, the liability, the ongoing, security and compliance. And we have the team to do it. Frankly, our CTOs built some of the largest platforms in the world. And so having done that, we sit in the middle and the core gets all the benefit of the growth, the increased deposits, the money movement through their core, the commands through their core. And so we use the intra-bank transfer network to actually move the money instantly through the back-end core. So instead of taking the funds out to a BAS account, where now the funds are leaving the bank and they're leaving the core, They move from your checking to your savings at the same bank. And now every time you swipe your card, you can instantly see the money changing accounts in real time.
Right.
From, within a tenth of a second, that command happens. And now you see that you're, $5 closer or 75 cents closer, whatever your roundup or tipping is, to your Jamaica vacation or your wherever you want to go, family vacation. And so you swipe and you see it happening in real time. And we're conditioned with Amazon to see, the truck's now driving up your street. Now the package is on your porch. Here's a picture. And you see that happening in real time. And for what ACE is building is we're removing the middleman. It's not leaving accounts. It's not having to ACH. You're not having to pay fees. So we have a significant reduction in the cost of operating fintechs because we're using the established infrastructure. And so the profits increase for everyone. And the core processor, we're looking for ways to build into their banking apps and have reseller agreements where they can actually generate revenue off of our platform and leverage our technology to increase engagement, to help their banks and credit unions be happier and have more access to the tech that their customers want. And so if their banks are making more money and they're happier, why would they ever leave the core?
Right.
And
Right.
so there's many other benefits, just scalability. I mean, we can handle 1 million transactions per second on a continuous basis. It's all microservices. We use Terraform, automated code deployment. We're in Azure. We use key vaults, managed identities, a lot of different pieces for security. But essentially, we could have 1 million fintechs call our APIs every second. And we only have to send one ping to the core to get all of the data for everything, and then we can distribute it out accordingly. So we could take a 40-year-old core infrastructure and instantly give it the scale to handle cloud capabilities from that standpoint of the fintech piece.
I have some experience working with some of the cores, and look, yes, they're old. You said 40 years old, right? They're old, but it's usually because they're complicated, well beyond you would believe, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they're complicated. There's a lot of legacy code. There's a little bit of no one's quite sure exactly what it does in certain areas because those people have had their career and they've left and they've retired. But there's so many interconnectivities in these core banking platforms. I mean, Jack,
yeah.
how many customers does Jack Henry have? Stop.
I think they're around 2,800 between all their cores. They've got Silver Lake and 2020 and quarter. They've got a Scimitar on the credit union side. They've got a bunch of different cores, and so not only is each one complicated, but there's all these different flavors within the core, making the complication and the integration that much more challenging.
Yeah, and we were talking to one of the core providers a couple of years ago, and they were saying their biggest challenge is they have to maintain the core. That is their business, right? Of making it
Yep.
stable, making it meet the banking regulations that are changing all the time. Like they have it's not sexy, but it's like the power company, right? When the lights turn off, which is it funny, my lights turned off in my office. Uh, but when the power is out, you notice it. When the power is on, you don't. And that's the same thing with the core banking platform. Is that they have a low tolerance for risk because they have to be the foundation of these banks, these credit unions. And so while they would love to dabble in all the new sort of fintechs and provide more value to their banking clients, they can't invest a ton of money because they're focusing on the nuts and bolts of the
Yeah.
banking problem. So
Yeah. They're in the business of that trust.
now they could acquire companies and things along those that and like try to bolt it on, but all of a sudden now they're like you said about staying in your lane, they're becoming something that they're not. So where they can, if De Novo Bank is coming up and they're trying to win that business by saying that we connect and have all these different fintech apps with all the data privacy we've been talking about, then all of a sudden they can provide their bank clients with a broader solution that
Yep.
and it's not a lot of work on their side, right? It's
Right.
really kind of introducing you to the APIs and vetting out that you guys are operating in a good manner, and that's all they kind of really need to do.
Yep. Yeah, they're able to resell a customizable app store directly to their banks, and they're going to get part of that revenue. We're going to get revenue. The bank's going to increase revenue and wallet share. So what we're essentially doing is helping bring a lot of that lost revenue and experience back that fintechs have traditionally been able to offer because the banks don't have those solutions. But beyond that, it starts to get really, really exciting when we can use your KYC bank credential login with ASA out in the open market. Think of we're talking to a fintech, I believe next week, that has a marketplace for buying and selling tractors and farm equipment.
All right.
And now you can log into that using your ASA login with ASA, OpenID Connect with Okta. Now we are backing that authenticated user where you don't have to share your name, your email, it's all private. But now we can verify or prove, do a zero knowledge proof and verify that that user, that customer is authentic. And we can also prove that they have approval for $250,000 to buy the farm equipment. Maybe they're looking for a big combine or a tractor to do something. And, in some areas, the tractors are bigger than the houses. And it's a huge industry. This is real opportunity. But now you're able to verify the user, fund the loan, and now the bank's able to make money and participate and verify the authenticity of the user, and the money is there. Because when you log in, you're not just verifying your identity, but you're bringing your bank accounts and the access to the money and the money movement with it. So in a way, you think of how powerful PayPal is and, Apple Pay and some of these things. Well, ACE is removing the middleman. The money doesn't have to leave the bank and go to PayPal and then go out. You're just logging it straight into the platform and able to issue those funds. And so we do have a step-up service called ASA Verify at the point of sale for moving the money or opening the account that verifies the liveness as well. And so the entire infrastructure, it becomes a passwordless bank authentication to move money, open accounts, and connect your data to any fintech, or to that point, to anything. You want to buy a car online? Well, why log into Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and deal with all the fraud? Is that a real car? Is this a real person? Am I getting ripped off? Half the messages you get are fake from people wanting to steal your money. Well, now you can see on the other end, only show me verified, ASA integrated logins, meaning we now have an auditable proof that that user is who they say they are. And if that is the case now, we're eliminating a huge amount of fraud. So that becomes a platform play. So along the lines with the Tractor Zoom, you might have another type of app, and there's a bunch of them out there called Chopped and others that we're trying to get meetings with and talking to that have farm to porch. Now you bring the ag bank brings the farmer, and then the retail bank brings the customers, and now they're all signing up to have local produce delivered on a regular basis to your porch. And it's all interconnecting the community. It's building commerce. It's verifying identity. It's bringing platform in. And for the end user, for the end application, the marketplace, it's just more customers. It's more revenue. And they don't have to do any marketing. They save marketing. They save their 20% customer acquisition costs, all these things. And then we can even do the payments and the money movement through the bank for the subscriptions. And so allowing the user to sign up and pay for their application or the marketplace subscription without disclosing their name, their email, their credit card number, or even their routing and account number. And so what we're building, it just creates efficiencies and it allows scale, and it allows the bank and the core to participate in these revenue streams that they would never have access to otherwise. I mean, we're creating new ways for them to build and enable in e-commerce and marketplaces.
It's exciting. I mean, it's a very interesting concept, and there's so many positives across the entire ecosystem of the fintech, the user, the bank, the core, and others. It's really neat. It's a great idea. How long
Thank you.
how long have you been noodling on this?
Oh my goodness. The idea by itself was a conjunction of, multiple, people and stakeholders thinking through this. But at my prior company, I scaled it up to 1,000 bank and credit union customers without a penny in funding. We
Oh,
bootstrapped it.
oh.
We got it in 50% of all schools in America. It's still around, an amazing company, financial literacy software. And in that space, I experienced that we wanted real data from the core. We wanted to be able to integrate it into our tools to see and enhance the experiences for like virtual coaches, kind of like AI type experiences. We were building that back in 2016, 17, way before it became popular. And now if you can create a system where it pulls in your actual account information, verifies everything, then the process is much more seamless. But in talking through it, it was impossible to be able to get the integrations to each core on a one-to-one basis. The juice was not worth the squeeze. And for each fintech to be able to do that, the lift, the time, the cost for that infrastructure is it's a deal killer for many of them. And so it all started from, man, how do we get the data from the banks so that we can enable function? And it was so hard to get data that, you've got screen scrapers logging in as if they were the customer and scraping and crawling all this data. And that's been the industry standard for years, thousands of institutions still connect that way because they have no way to get the data. So we said, well, we need a lot of what Dodd-Frank 1033 is talking about. We need an API that the consumer can control, that anyone can connect in less than 48 hours, that will give them access to all of the user's data directly to the core. And that idea is where we are today, but it started with, we went through a bunch of iterations. Initially, it was going to be the concept of this open banking system, direct connections to the cores, combined with self-sovereign identity. We were originally going to build it on a blockchain and we pivoted away from that. We didn't need it. It wasn't scalable enough. The chain was too slow having a public blockchain. So instead we created a trusted closed private network with an access control framework that allows that permissioning. So the idea, and it was probably early 2019 that it was really formalized. And then we filed the patent in 2020 and then started building the actual architecture in 2021. And then it's been evolving from there as we've talked to banks, credit unions, and cores and fintechs and just said, what do you need and what do you want? But for me, my heart and why we're in this is in creating opportunity for all and a way for consumers to be able to have financial empowerment. And I was fortunate. I had an older brother that helped me learn how to build credit and get my first card and guided me through that. Most people don't have that. And so we have so much great technology. ASA is going to allow that experience to be an automated system through the rails of your bank and credit union in a safe, compliant, private way to be able to guide you through your life and help you succeed. And I think for me, it's bringing more technology and more opportunities directly to the hands of the user in a safe way.
The passion is evident, Landon. It's amazing. Yeah, you do this because you like to do it, and you see a need, and you really want to fill that need. That's a great characteristic.
Well, a little bit about me. I might be a little crazy because
all right. Well,
I like to do
I was giving you a positive here.
Yeah, thank you.
There's
Because
a
I
fine
like to
line
do
between
things.
passion and crazy.
There is. I think a lot of people that build companies are a bit crazy because they believe so much in what they're doing and they're so focused that nothing can stop them. And that's where you see, people fight through all of the challenges because there are so many challenges to building and creating and innovating. But I guess the reason I say I might be a little bit crazy is everybody's motivated by different things. And my motivation internally comes from doing things that people think are impossible, from doing things that no one else could do, from creating, from building, from doing things where you sometimes you start talking to some people say you're crazy. That's impossible. That can never be done. That's what drives me. I hear that and I go harder. And I say, how can I start talking to smarter and smarter people? And you see the team, the investors, the group we've brought in. Lisa Goldshire was the head of innovation for the American Bankers Association in Washington, D.C. for 20 years. And she was heading up innovation, looking for technology that could change the industry, change the whole face of banking. And she found it. She quit her job and joined our team last year. And so it draw the vision, the passion of what we're accomplishing. It brings in the talent because I could not do this. I could not accomplish this. But what I can do is drive that vision and never stop until we hit the end result. And for me, the harder it is to do, the more exciting and the more fun, the more I wake up with a smile on my face and want to go to work. And so, coming from a person that doesn't have to work, I did really well with the other things that I've done. And, a lot of people say, oh, I just want to go golfing, or I just want to not have to do things. I want to do things. I drive to do things, and I prioritize my life in a way to meet those things. And so, I love my family. I love time, doing things myself. But my happiest place, which sounds crazy, is going to the office at 8, 9 a.m. and staying till sometimes 10 p.m. working and getting things done. And there's very few people that makes them happy. But once you've solved the problem and you've moved it forward, then I'll take time to rest and recalibrate. But that's a little bit about me personally.
Whew. All right. Well, we'll bleep that last part out where you like going to work. I don't want the family to hear that too much, but
yeah.
so what's on deck? People hear the podcast are going to want to reach out to you and understand more about it. What conference are you going to be at that they can find you? What other events are you going to? What website are they going to go to? Like give a little marketing spiel here.
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just give me an ad, and you can message me through there, or you can email me directly. My email is landon.glenn, landon.glenn at ASA .financial. And feel free to email or reach out through LinkedIn. And then as far as where we'll be next, so we're actually going to be at a couple places. So I'll be in the Lodge at Torrey Pines in La Jolla in San Diego, the 8th to the 11th at Castle Creek Capital Annual Summit or annual meeting. And then that same period, we'll have Lisa out at the Kansas Bankers Association with Emprise and Entrust Bank in Wichita from I think the 8th to the 11th, the exact same day she'll be out there. And so we're participating we were selected for the Nexus or Next Stage FinTech Accelerator program. And so that program's a fun opportunity to meet investors and banks and work on pilots and build relationships. So the Kansas Bankers Association, Emprise and Entrust Bank have done an incredible job there as well. So then after that, we'll be at the Jack Henry Connect conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. I believe that's from the 16th to the 19th. And then from there I think it's the 21st, I'll be at the Commerce Ventures UFC event down at the Octagon of UFC in Las Vegas. So I'm pretty excited to see what that entails. And then immediately following that is Money 2020 that we'll be at.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So that's just the next 30 days.
Someone represents Torrey Pines, I'd be happy to come help you out.
Yeah, that'd be great. We might need a golf partner, to come on and hit some balls. I'm not much of a golfer, but I'm happy to try.
I'm sure it's beautiful even if you're not golfing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then from there, we'll be at the FIS Demo Day in November in Florida. And so that's going to be another fun one. And then the same dates, we're going to have someone else presenting at Venture 135 in Charlotte, North Carolina. I believe that's the 14th and the 15th. And I believe the FIS Demo Day is also the 14th and the 15th. So just funny enough, a lot of our events are landing on the exact same days as other events, which makes for, division of, delegation and getting divide and conquer, really.
We'll have to talk to Dan Roselli about the Venture 135. Make sure we can move it. But the FIS Demo Day, which is on the same days, that's in Florida. That's in Jacksonville.
That's in Jacksonville at FIS headquarters, and then the other event is going to be, of course, in Charlotte.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Well, Landon, this has been exciting. You've come so far in such short period of time. For being a young company, 4 years old with COVID in the middle, you've come a long way. You've got great ideas. It sounds like you've got some really strong connections in the industry, and you're connected in all these events. It's going to be amazing. I love to watch the journey.
Thank you. Yeah, Kevin, appreciate the support and the conversation today. It was a lot of fun, and looking forward to connecting with you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.